The 6 things that you should absolutely know about Wicca, witchcraft, ceremonial magic, nature magic, or earth magic. Earthcraft, as taught by Baal-Shem, the Western way of nature mysticism and earth magic. One. Earth magic is the ancient magic of the land. When we speak of witchcraft, we mean natural magic, i.e., the old ways as some call it. We're not talking about today's Wicca. We'll get to Wicca in a moment. Earth magic is the ancient magic of the land. Practicing earth magic means building an intense relationship with the land. This relationship can be an intense friendship, and it can be just as demanding as a relationship with a person or an animal, and in some special cases, the comparison with marriage may not be far-fetched. With this in mind, we would like to define earth magic as friendship with the land, because it can be just as fulfilling and rewarding as a friendship with a person or an animal. Nowadays, there are many people who tell you that they are witches or that they walk the old ways, but without being connected to a particular piece of land. It's like someone saying they are friends or even married with no one in particular, just in general. Indeed, one may even feel connected to humanity in general, but that is usually not mutual. And if this person has never developed a close relationship with a real person, then they probably have no or only very poor social skills. It is the same with the general closeness to nature, which in principle is fine. However, there is no response on nature's part, and it does not lead to a mutual exchange. This is different with earth magic. The earth magician or witch has an intense mutual connection with the land. This means the land has wishes for the earth magician or witch, and vice versa. Both the land and the human find what they are looking for. 2. The difference between earth magic and ceremonial magic. Witchcraft, natural magic, or earth magic draws its strength from the direct contact with the land, plants, and the 4 elements. Here, these are not so much seen as spiritual principles, but more as natural forces. Ceremonial magic, on the other hand, is rather aimed at the higher spheres. Put simply, earth magic is lower magic and belongs to the green ray, while ceremonial magic is high magic. Ceremonial magic, also called ritual magic, belongs primarily to the blue ray and extends to the violet ray, the ray of mysticism. 3. Wicca is not a magical path, but a modern religion. Actually, Wicca is not a magical path at all, but a religion with magical elements. However, Wicca is not an old religion, but was spread and promoted by retired British civil servant Gerald Gardner in the late 1940s. The term Wicca first appears in his book Witchcraft Today, published in 1954, and is probably based on the Anglo-Saxon term for male fortune teller. The female form is Wicci, from which the general English word witch for a female witch is derived. Wicca is a modern construct that neither establishes a real relationship with the land, nor does it extend into the high spheres of ritual magic. Thus, Wicca has neither adopted the advantages of the one path, nor those of the other path. The strange mixture of Wicca almost inevitably leads to the fact that the depths or the heights of spiritual work remain closed. One and the same person can practice both earth magic and high ritual magic, but they cannot do it at the same time, any more than one can ask and command something of someone at the same time. This parable is only intended to illustrate why one cannot do both at the same time. It is not an adequate representation of the relationship between the paths of ceremonial and earth magic. Many of today's Wicca followers seem to want to evade this dilemma by turning more and more towards the shamanic techniques. However, shamanism is also an independent path, which only discloses itself to those that fully engage with it. The earth magician builds a deep connection with the forces of the land in order to live in harmony with them. The ceremonial magician builds a deep connection with the highest spiritual forces in order to live in harmony with God's will and to change the world in which they live. Wicca does neither of both, for Wicca is an exoteric religion and not an esoteric spiritual path. Wicca enables people who cannot warm towards well-known concepts of religion to live an alternative form of religion, in which, in its symbolism, has made use of elements from the earth magic tradition, as well as elements from the Western mystery tradition. The reason for the strange mixture of Wicca is mainly due to the influence of Aleister Crowley on Gerald Gardner. Incidentally, we do not want to give the impression that we reject Wicca in principle. We just want to emphasize that it shouldn't simply be synonymous with witchcraft. For many people, Wicca offers a first introduction to the subject of magic, and it makes the subject popular, which is a great merit. Every religion has its spiritual roots, and in this manner the religions of the Occident arose from the Western mystery tradition, forming an entry point to the spiritual teachings to some extent. As already mentioned, Wicca is also such a religion and sees itself as a religion and can be a gateway for the spiritual seeker, both to earth magic and to high ceremonial magic. Despite the apparent preference for earth magic symbolism in Wicca, the religious practice of Wicca, as established by Gardner, is actually closer to ceremonial magic than to the old witch cult. This is no coincidence, because Crowley, who inspired and presumably also instructed Gardner, was a ceremonial magician himself. Wicca was, among others, created for people who feel repulsed by the Christian church. Aleister Crowley encouraged Gardner to develop Wicca because he saw it as a possibility to spread the content of his, Crowley's, teachings. From the outset, however, Wicca was not at all intended to instruct people in the sense of an esoteric spiritual training path. On the contrary, Crowley was not at all interested in the fact that advanced magical techniques could find their way into Wicca via Gardner. Due to the above described dilemma, this is not feasible anyway. The Wiccan rituals are religious rituals that are no more or less magical than a Catholic Mass. However, the outward form of Wiccan rituals is such that it contains more elements that are associated by the average person with the subject of magic. The prayers or ceremonies of other religions can also have some effects in some circumstances, but they are far from being equated with magical training. In summary, we can say that Wicca is a valuable addition to the lives of many people, and the community of this religion fills a void created by the politics of the church. Still, Wicca is no magical education, in the same way that a degree in theology or a Catholic seminary are no magical education either. 4. Hierarchy in the old ways. When talking about this subject, some people ask about initiations. It is not uncommon for someone who has only been involved with magic for a few years to call himself a high priest or high priestess. But in our opinion, that's just foolish. Baal-Shem, for example, is an initiate of the Western mysteries, but that has nothing to do with natural magic, but with high or ceremonial magic. In traditional natural magic, these and other titles are not given great importance. Due to the completely different form of magic, such degrees are superfluous here, but they are absolutely appropriate and have their place in ceremonial magic. As far as we know, the different degrees in Wicca were only introduced by Gerald Gardner due to the influence of complex degree systems in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Gardner was introduced to these degree systems through the aforementioned acquaintance with Aleister Crowley. The degree symbolism of Freemasonry certainly played a role here. The term high priest does not appear in the old ways. Anyone who claims to follow the old ways and who wants to impress by calling themselves an initiate, priest, or even high priest is really only demonstrating how little or nothing they know about the old ways. 5. The two important stages of earth magic. In earth magic, as we understand it, only two stages should receive special attention. The first stage is the admittance into the coven, which, in the old days, mostly coincided with grouping up and often took place between the ages of 13 and 15. In the olden days, at this age, one was considered to be grown up. One should remember that someone who grew up with a family tradition has been gradually introduced to the old knowledge in a child-friendly manner since early childhood. At this point, the young person has had at least 7 years of training behind them. However, as already mentioned, this training was child-friendly and simplified, and a person who begins to learn earth magic as an adult can certainly be just as advanced after about 1 year. However, it is not the time that is important, but the inner meaning of this step. It distinguishes the person who is mature in the earth magical sense, that is, they are able and ready to carry out serious earth magic work. However, this does not mean that the person is also spiritually mature and will act responsibly, especially if the person has just passed puberty. The admittance into the coven is nothing else than an acceptance into the circle or the community of adults who seriously practice the old witchcraft. It is not an award of spiritual achievement, although a certain minimum of spiritual maturity is certainly desirable. The second stage is what we would like to call consecration into the craft, and which, in the olden days, was mostly reserved for one person who held the function of clan chief, or village healer and seer. This person must have had completed his or her earth magical training and reached mastery in order to satisfactorily carry out all earth magical tasks for the benefit of the family or the village. In the old days, this person chose only one successor, whom they systematically trained and who eventually took over his or her job. Nowadays, however, it seems more appropriate to us not to limit this step to a single person. 6. The magical work of earth magic. The ancient tradition of earth magic is mainly characterized by 3 aspects. 1. Working with the land. 2. Herbal and plant magic, the symbolic language of the country. 3. Celebrations and customs of the annual cycles and life in the coven community. Do you want to know more about it? The old way is by no means extinct. It is still possible to learn the old witchcraft today. For all who want to follow the call of the land, we offer a modern interpretation of the old earth magic traditions, which are not cut off, as it was unfortunately customary in the old days, but can be connected to a spiritual ascent to the higher planes. Modern earth magic, which is based on a centuries, if not millennia-old tradition, and which, although it is an independent path, is compatible with all spiritual paths of the mysteries. You can find more information about this training in the video description. As always, we look forward to your likes. Please let us know in your comments which aspect of earth magic interests you the most: the work with the land, herbal and plant magic, or the celebrations and customs of the annual circle and the life in the coven community. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. See you soon!